The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Sky with 6316, 8.8 for 6,000.
Yeah, 6316, North Approach, gonna maintain 3,000, number 1 for the right.
3,000, Sky with 6316.
East Coast, we are coming to you live from Uncle Jimbo's cabin, sharing space between the Pacific Northwest and the Desert Southwest as it does every weekend here on spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, the land of the walking dead, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, and the High Plains Talk Radio Network. We are so thankful that you are listening to us tonight. Thank you for being here. We also want to thank Ron Bumblefoot, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend rock. He is a guitar god, if there ever was one. And he gives us our official spacedoutradio.com music. Also, if you yourself are a web surfing social media guru / deva / deity / god, please check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on Radio Guide FM, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you go to patreon.com, we have some cool offers for you, our listeners there as well. Make sure you check those out. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. We offer some pretty decent swag, as it's our opportunity to give back to you, our valued listener. We hope you take us up on those offers. We have a new section called The Encounter that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of editors Eric Markham and Everett Themer, and you can check out Dave Scott's blog there as well. If you've had an experience that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on with your experience and with you, and to keep it all highly, 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 highly confidential. Tonight, we're going back to mythical fantasy creatures, especially fairies, talking about fairies and gnomes and such creatures. And I had some time today with my good friend, Carol Bernard, who is a curandera here in New Mexico, has studied herbalism, had a wonderful mother who recently passed, who studied Baba Yaga and Russian folklore. And we had a conversation about how do you know, as a modern human being, how do you know that you've got something going on with fairies, and what do you do about it when it happens? And she referenced a book that she had read, quite a while ago, but it's still a wonderful book called The Elves of Lily Hill Farm. And Lily Hill Farm was in Michigan, and there was a lady there who didn't believe in elves, and it's based of what happened on her farm when she bought this farm and began to work with it. All of a sudden, the fairies or the devas showed up and began to direct her actions on the farm. And she grew grapes, and there were apple orchards, and Michigan can be wonderful and lush if you know how to deal with a combination of a lot of water and a lot of sand, depending on where you're at, or a lot of muck if you're down in Lake Erie. But she managed to work with the fairies to create a crop of grapes that was unheard of for the amount of land that she had. And she also left a wild place for them. So it is back in print. It was out of print for a long time. It's a wonderful book called The Elves of Lily Hill Farm. And it's on Amazon. You may be able to find it on other places. The new copies are expensive because it is a reprint, but you can get, they're $35 for a regular linked book. But the old copies are quite inexpensive. Hold on one second. A little bit dry this evening, sorry folks. So I was looking around, we had a conversation, and we agreed about a lot of the things that you will tend to find if you all of a sudden find yourself in relationship with elves or fairies or some kind of mythical creature or fate-shifted creature like that. And one of the things is that when fairies become interested in you, they tend to steal your stuff. Yes, that's right. They want to steal your stuff because it's interesting to them. And fairies themselves can be very, and I'm talking, these are, for me, it could be any fairies, but in my experience, this has been the ones that look like humans, that can be as tall as humans, are not necessarily tiny. They like anything to do with armor and chainmail, shooting bows and arrows, knives, anything like that. They may also like pieces of jewelry. Of course, my father would say they like socks, because he was always losing socks. But then I found out that all the socks were not being stolen by fairies. They were actually getting turned into the back side of the dryer. They would get into the rubber cushion in the back side of the dryer and, just get sucked in there. And if you really look behind your rotating drum on your dryer, you may find all of the lost socks in your universe of socks. So don't blame fairies for your lost socks, because that will not make them happy, unless you get a really good pair of really awesome socks that a fairy would love to wear, that is made out of wool and is multicolored, and perhaps they could use it in wartime. Your socks are probably behind the drum of your dryer, not your washer. Don't tell anybody I told you that. It's a secret. Where also, supposedly the powers of the universe wanted it to remain a secret, but who knows? Who knows? So the first thing that happens if you have fairies in your home, fairies on your property, fairies in your vicinity, is you will lose something and you can't understand how you could possibly lose it. You keep it in the same place every time, or it was tied up in such a way that it couldn't become untied. My situation was the fairy stole the bowstring of my longbow that I used for SEA events, so a Society for Creative Anachronism events, which is medieval reenactment society. And, all I did was, I had just started, so the only thing I was an archer, and that was it. I didn't have anything else to my name. And the mountain fairies stole my bowstring. And I asked nicely. I was told, well, what you need to do is ask nicely for them to return it, please. And within several days, it was returned to me, placed beside my truck, beside the driver's side door, stretched out straight and long and thin, so that I could tell that it had been placed there by someone in the night before, after I got home from work, and did not go back out to the truck again. So in my case, I became involved in a friendship with a group of local mountain fairies, and one of the fairies who had stolen the bowstring was named Daniel, who is quite still a wonderful. From time to time, I check in with him and see how he's doing. He actually lives on the back side of the mountain, about half an hour away from where I am now. And he would often hang out with a couple of other very human-looking in the astral plane fairy people who were aware of what we were doing at the property at that time, because we were doing a lot of energy work and a lot of clearing work, and they were interested in that. Because clearing work clears more than just the physical realm that we're in. It clears the astral realms, the spiritual realms, all the different kinds of unseen realms, some that you don't even realize exist. And so that becomes very apparent to folk who are nearby in either this phase-shifted, quarter phase-shifted realm, or the fairy realm, or however you want to look at it. So the first thing is, things go missing. Your keys go missing. That's not good. Usually your glasses go looking. Please look on top of your head. But no, something that you might, really need or find important, but also something that could be interesting to a fairy, will go missing. Ask nicely for it to be returned. And if you want to really bribe the fairies, milk works, chocolate works, wine works. Yes, they like gold things, but that's not expected. And basically, just putting the vibe out there, have a little talk. I'm willing to talk to you. I'm willing to have a telepathic conversation with you, or an outright talk, and then I'm willing to listen to see if I hear anything back. And when I say have a talk and be willing to listen to see if you hear anything back, my thoughts about that are, it's easier if you're doing any sort of intuitive or telepathic work with fairies or animals or anything else, to go ahead and have a sheet of paper with you, or a notebook with you, and to write down, how you've address the fairies or the spirits around you, and then write down their response back. That way you can refer to it later. That way you can ask further questions on it at a different time as the energy permits and is good. And that way you can really use it as a log of what you're learning from the fairies around you, from the devas around you, from domestic spirits that are around you. And usually this information is going to be quite practical. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm listening to the psychotic voices in my head that say, kill my landlord, C-I-L-L, my landlord. No. If you're hearing that, that is not fairy talk. That is not gnome talk. That is not anything. Unless, of course, your landlord has really made the fairies mad, in which case what you may get a sense of is a massing of very angry, warlike fairies. But they would not be telling you to C-I-L-L your landlord. They would just be like, let's kick your landlord's butt, or something like that. And if you are the landlord, well then, being Irish, I'd say good on you, but, oftentimes the landlords were the bad guys. So, anyway, a joke. Amanda, I'm joking. I don't mean it. I know you have lots of tenants that you have to work with. Okay, so that being said, there's also, if you tend to have fairies around, you may have a master of your house, a domovoid. And this would be a household spirit. Normally, domovoids that I'm aware of are male. Somebody may have another experience. Baba Yaga in my friend's mother's folklore encounters was the crone. In her experience, she is a friendly household spirit who can give information on how to keep the home and how to keep the earth. But she's not necessarily a house elf or a domovoy, which looks a bit like a gnome. And so, if you have a domovoy, it's really important to keep that spirit happy by saying thank you and perhaps giving little gifts and addressing them perhaps when things do go missing. Say, Master, have you seen my such and such? Would you be able, if you have it, would you be willing to return it, please? I need it. Master, will you take care of the house when I'm gone? They love to be asked nicely to do the things that they would do anyway, but they love to be asked nicely and to be honored in that way. It's like, well, I know you're here and I know you live in this space with me, so I'm going to ask you because I have to go away now. Will you please take care of the house while I'm gone? That being said, no, Michael McNeil, this is not a rerun from last night. What I'm going to do a little bit later in the show, and this is somewhat dependent on whether or not James can come back and answer the phone lines. I will take questions if you want me to scan your property and look and see if there are any fairy spirits, domovoys, gnomes, or any of that lot around your home or your property. I will go ahead and do that a little later in the show. So if you are on chat, I will announce this again before I do it. Get your questions ready with large caps. If you're in the SOR chat room, I will look for you there. If you're on the Spaced Out Radio chat room, I tend to have a little bit of problem getting the chat room to scroll for me on Spaced Out Radio. So I'll do my best, and if James comes back, we'll do our best to get your questions answered if you want to scan or if you want to ask a question. If something that happened, was it a fairy, was it a gnome, was it a mythical creature, what was that? I'm also familiar with aliens, and I have met a couple Bigfoot, couple handfuls of Bigfoot. So, we can always look at that as well. So a little later, we'll be doing that before the end of the show, just for a real quick scouting round. Okay, so basically working with fairies, there are some good sources of information about that. And this gets back into our... a few weeks ago, I did a show on Institutes for Reunion, and some of the places where they work with fairies that would be considered to be institutes for reunion are Damanhur in Italy, and now there's one in Boulder, Colorado, and Findhorn in Scotland. And this is really, the people in those places are consciously working with the spirits of the earth in order to create more abundance on the earth through the growing of food crops and plants, and also habitats, and understanding how the natural plants and animals work, and also creating a dialogue with them. And so Findhorn, for example, in terms of a modern-day fairy story of how modern people work with fairies in a successful way and don't get burned at the stake as witches, as in the time of King James and demonology, came about in the 60s when Peter and Eileen Caddy and Dorothy McLean were working at basically a hotel in the town of Forres, Scotland, northern Scotland. And Eileen began to receive guidance and meditation from an inner source she called the still small voice within. And Peter began to receive guidance from his own intuition. And they were able to turn around this hotel into a very impressive 4-star hotel, and then a few years later they were fired, and so they ended up living in a caravan park nearby. And they didn't know what they would do. They moved to this caravan park, and they began to work with their intuition again to ask what they should be doing. And what came up was gardening and working with plants and working with your spirits. And so Eileen's guidance, she wrote about in a book entitled God Spoke to Me in 1967. But she was also working with the presence of God, the Spirit of God, this idea that God is within all things, and that the Spirit and the still small voice within can be attuned to listen to the still small voice within everything, within every spirit in nature, and which is also the Spirit of God. And so this is a book you can still find. It's called God Spoke to Me, and it is a wonderful book. And then there is another book that's still available called The Findhorn Garden, which talks about how Findhorn evolved with people working with fairies or spirits of the earth, spirits of the plants, spirits of the trees. To Hear the Angels Sing is Dorothy McLean's autobiography. I love autobiographies. I love memoirs, because you really get to see the path of how people began to do the things they did and how they went from a state of denial and a state of separation from the natural world, from spirit and the natural world, into a state of oneness and attunement with the natural world and with the fairies and the devas and the plant spirits. Flight into Freedom is also by Eileen Caddy, and it's her autobiography. And The Kingdom Within is a selection of writings in history and the work of the Findhorn Foundation by David Spangler, Eileen Cattle, Murdoch Lyons, William Bloom, Dorothy McLean, and many others. John Talbot, if you are building a home or you want to become more at one with echo building methods in order to make your fairy spirits and your devas of your home very happy, Simply Build Green is a book that everyone should have as a Bible. And In Perfect Timing is by Peter Caddy, and it's Peter Caddy's autobiography. And then Dorothy McLean wrote another book called Memoirs of an Ordinary Mystic. Now, there are other teachers doing other things, but the one thing that I really like about the Findhorn tradition is that it is heart-centered in the sense that everybody who works there, works with the plants, who works with the spirits, has a sort of call to love and action. So Peter Caddy gave an explanation of this as love where you are, love what you're doing, love who you're doing it with. And so it's really important that anybody on the spiritual path or even the paranormalist path considers this message, because if you love where you are, you love what you're doing, and you love who you're doing it with, you very rarely find yourself out of disharmony with nature, out of disharmony with the people that you're with, and in resentment, which is attractive to negative entities and demons and things that like to foster resentment and negative encounters. So if you're centering yourself in your work in the world in love, you can accomplish a lot more attunement with nature, attunement with fairies, and attunement with other beings. I found this to be the case after I became a Reiki master in 1994, and what happened with me is I had a bad attitude before I was a Reiki master. I was really mad that people were harming the world. I thought that people were driving their cars too much. I really was sort of a radical left-wing, false out there, why don't you wake up? And I had all these alien experiences where the aliens kept showing us these apocalyptic end-of-the-world scenarios where climate change had happened, where there was heavy desertification along with flooding on the coast. There was nothing to eat, there was nothing to drink, and there was mind control all over the place. And so to me, what was leading up to that was consumerism. And I was angry all the time at this rampant consumerism and consumers. People who just had to have more and eat more and have bigger cars and bigger houses. And you know, if it wasn't a 5,000 square foot house, it wasn't big enough. And it's, after I had my Reiki attunements, which is interesting because I was really becoming attuned to the energy of Source, I dropped my anger. I dropped my upsetness with everybody else. And I really began to look at other people as just dealing with the same situation that I was dealing with and running up against the same problems and the same challenges in the same space in the same time. And I really began to see that every human being has within them this really good intentioned, really sweet, really wonderful, really lovable human being. So I had this sea change overnight after my first 2 initiations, where everyone became beautiful and I loved them and everything became beautiful. Even the toxic crap in the air was kind of beautiful. And what that did, not so much that it made me this loving, wonderful person. I can still have a temper. I'm still Irish. You know, come on. Irish people can really get going with that if they want to. And so can lots of other people all around the world if they want to. But what it did is it made me more attractive to shyer beings, shyer spiritual beings, wanting to work with me because I was safe, because I was coming from a position of love versus a position of fear. So what oftentimes will happen with people who find that they have fairies or devas who are still dealing with, at whatever age they're at, this idea that the world is out to get you and perhaps people are bad and things are bad and a sort of paranoia about your place in the world. What will happen is that, you know, when somebody comes in and steals your bowstring, it'll be seen as an affront or an assault versus interest, versus I would like to initiate a dialogue and relationship with you. When things began to get moved around in your house, it could be seen as perhaps King James did, as demonology. And instead of, well, that's interesting, and being open to encountering whatever being it was that began to move things around in the house and place them in different places. So the basic tenet of work in the world with love, or be in the world with love, that Findhorn embraces, is incredibly important for work with fairies and mythical creatures or phase shifter creatures that you may find out there. Because if you're not able to be in love with what's out there, or to allow yourself at least to approach them initially with love, we're going to turn the encounter and the relationship that you could have into one of separation versus one of oneness, versus one of openness, versus one of positivity and synergy. And what they're finding with people who do work with devas and with fairies is that the synergy produces more bountiful good than the lack of synergy, the lack of openness. And when you're working out of love, you can do that. There's a very interesting, analogous work that went on in Tibet with Tibetan monks who were doing the highest yoga tantra. And I'm not talking about sex here. I'm talking about the energy of tantra, which is clearing and of all beings and the places that they were. So they were really doing mantras and meditations and guided visualizations toward very high level clearing work, clearing of the physical body, all of the spiritual bodies, all of the everything that had to do with the human being in order to reach enlightenment. And in the Mahavairākana Sutra, which is Buddhist, but it is also based on some Hindu and Proto-Hindu information from thousands of years before, anyone who went to go do this tantra work was advised to go do it in the wilderness where there were good plants, good animals, good plants, not a lot of people. But before they sat down to do their tantra work, they were asked for a period of days to contact all of the nature spirits and all of the habitual spirits of that area and to ask their permission to do their clearing work in that area. Because sometimes, and their teachers would tell them, sometimes this energy can be perceived as harmful by them, and you want to let them know that your intention is not to be harmful so that they don't take up arms and become warlike against you. And think about that. What are fairies? What can they become if they feel threatened? Warlike. If you get into their space and start doing something that you haven't talked to them about, what do they ask? Well, they might become warlike. So, interesting. Other side of the world, not Europe, not where a lot of us are from, in Canada, the U.S., Australia, but they're still talking about the same things about earth spirits that they have found with elves, that they found at Lily Hill Farm, that they have found at Finport. Work with love, be in communion with nature instead of outside of communion with nature. So for people who are coming in, if you have a question about fairies, gnomes, or other things, you can type it in chat if you want. If it's personal and you want me to view it, remote view it, look at your space and see if I see anything there. I can tell you about that. I am having a bit of problem scrolling through, so James, if you are back, if you could read questions for me. My computer is running incredibly slowly this evening. I don't know why. I must not have done the right things for the fairies. Oh, please, fairies, make my computer go faster. I would really appreciate it. No begging of your fairies either. That's just sad. Okay. Next thing, I did want to say thank you to, was it Robert? Somebody sent me a really cool email last night, and I didn't pull it up. Here I go. I'm going to pull it up and read it to you. Robert Alexander. I thought that was right. It was like two first names. Robert Alexander, I want to thank you for sending me an email last night, and he asked if I had heard about the thread titled something like, I drove out of this world for 20 minutes, and this was a thread on the internet for about 15 to 20 years ago for a while, and it was about a salesman who left Alpena, Michigan, driving west, and at one point she noticed her surroundings change. They became unlike what they were before, and she drove her car along roads that were alongside the roads were working, picking and shoveling gnomes that were being supervised, beaten, and whipped to work harder by humanoid lizards. And at one point in the description of what she was seeing, she said that she made eye contact with one of the gnomes being beaten, and he shook his head at her and motioned with his head not to stop but to keep going. But it looked as if he was the only one who could see her driving by. After 20 minutes of driving, she phased back into this reality, and things began to look the same again. And as it was a time-related phase-out, she drove the road again in her routes, but she didn't ever experience the same situation again. So Robert is basically asking the question, do you think this is phase shift? The phase shift world idea? Yes, I absolutely do. I think that would be, if you found yourself in that situation, you would probably have phase shifted yourself into that quarter step difference in the world. There have been stories in the past. There was a guy in, I think it was Tennessee or Kentucky, who was walking across his front lawn and disappeared and was never found again. And people were on the porch. They gone, and he was gone. And I wonder if that is also a situation where he just happened to hit one of those pockets where the situation was just right for him to go into that phase-shifted world next to ours, where fairies are something else's. He was never found again. His family and everyone looked for years, but they literally witnessed him disappear and leave the world. Okay. That being said, I am updating my information here so I can look at chat room. My computer is still very, very slow. I'm sorry about that. James, are you around? No, James. Okay, so let's see. What else do we know about fairies and spirits? Some people have written in Scandinavian literature about encounters with gnomes. And I know Dave is going to listen to this show, and he's going to creep right out of his skin. But gnomes are an important part of Scandinavian mythology, and a lot of Scandinavians have seen them, and non-Scandinavians have seen them, including Dave Scott, our illustrious other host, and during the week. In Mysterious Universe, there's a story about gnomes, and John Carlson of New Jersey writes on his blog, The Paranormalist, he remembers his Grandma Alice's stories of gnomes as well. Grandma Alice was born in 1891 and raised in Sweden, and she knew of the mischievous nature of gnomes and tomte. And when I was a boy, she told me the stories of the tomte, Carlson said, small beings that took the appearance of old bearded men. Grandma Alice told him that the tomte were generally benign until a human upset them, much like fairies, much like house spirits. And then they would curdle milk or break items around the house. Interesting. And Carlson said his grandmother told stories of seeing tiny tomte footprints in the mud and snow. I have never seen tiny tomte footprints. I've seen one Bigfoot footprint, never tiny tomte footprints. Dr. Scott A. Mallor, professor from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, teaches Scandinavian mythology and said that gnomes were once so important in some parts of Scandinavia that they were basically as popular as our belief in ghosts. And now we basically say that the tomte are legends, that people don't see them, they never existed, they were a myth. But because of the tradition, you might find people in Scandinavia who still leave oatmeal out during Christmas, but it is rather the equivalent of leaving cookies for Santa Claus. This is really important. It gets back to the friendly house spirits, your master of the house, your domovoi. You could leave them milk, you could leave them chocolate, you could leave them wine, etc. If you want to work with fairies or you find they've been stealing your stuff and are trying to engage with you, you can leave them something. And that tends to make them very happy. So there are stories also of gnome-like creatures that become very, very real. There was a woman, Tammy, who moved herself and her 3 children to a country house in the Tule River near Porterville, California. And she didn't know that something wicked waited for them there. And she always got the feeling of being watched. Yes, James. Okay, ghostly James is trying to talk to me. One spot on the farm, especially on the edge near the barn, the family animals, dogs, a cat, turkeys, chickens, and ducks avoided it. And they had a lot more chickens and ducks that had started disappearing. And she also noticed that none of the neighbors lost their animals, and there were no stray animals, for that matter, would go anywhere near the barn, and it was just creepy. But she discovered one evening when her son, who was 7 years old at the time, had just come back, said to her, as they got out of the car from the grocery store, he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye, and then she did. And she lifted up the grocery sack from the car, and she saw the movement again, And then she heard this very freaky and evil-sounding chuckle. This is really going to make Dave upset. She looked in the direction of the sound, and there, standing about 50 yards away from her son and herself, was what she could only describe as a gnome. The creature was about 2 to 3 feet tall. He wore baggy black pants and a gold-colored shirt. He had a salt and pepper beard, ran from beneath a red pointed hat, and the thing grinned at them with a creepy grin spread from ear to ear, and its teeth were gross brown and pointed or jagged, and it had a bulbous nose and large, deep-set eyes. So it was really a scary, scary gnome. She dropped the groceries, grabbed her son, and as the wicked little man cackled after her, she ran to the house, and she burst into the kitchen and slammed the door and tried to tell her daughters about her panic, and something moved outside the kitchen window. She looked and saw the top of the thing's red pointed hat, and it had to be about 10 foot off the ground. So this is a levitating gnome, and then things eventually disappeared from the window, and she went out to see what was happening. And with that, my computer has frozen up. A lovely day. James, are you there? Okay.
I am here. I have come to save you from that box on the roof that you sound like you're broadcasting from.
Oh, shoot. Well, I don't know why that is.
I know.
So Wyatt A has asked me, can I scan his place without actually calling in? Yes, I can look at your place, Wyatt. So, Wyatt, I'm going to do that for you right now. And when my computer comes back up, I think the gnomes just don't like me to talk about them. They're like somebody else we know who doesn't like to be talked about in places where people go paranormal investigating. Hold on one second. Wyatt, I'm connecting to your house. Hold on. Okay, Wyatt, you have a grandmother who I think may have actually been a grandmother of yours, but, you know, if she wasn't, then I would put her in the Baba Yaga crone situation. So there's a little lady, I think before she died, she was in a wheelchair, or she shows herself in a wheelchair, but she was really, really good at creating things. She was really good with plants. She was really good at creating things. And she's been trying to work with you on creating more abundance in your life. And she knew a lot of the old ways. She knew, when to plant with the phases of the moon. She knew how to make things. She knew how to grow a garden. She knew how to can things. She knew how to heal people. She knew how to make herbal salve. And even significant healings. You might call them prayer healings, but they were really energy work. If you can text me back and let me know if that sounds familiar to you. I don't have a name for her, but she had dark hair, so dark, it was so dark brown, it was almost black, and she had very dark brown eyes, and she had thin. She was never very big. She never became a big woman, or by the time I'm seeing her, she wasn't very big. And she was much older. And so in some ways she reminds me of the crone because of her age. It's very advanced. But I seem to perceive that what she's actually in at this age is a wheelchair. Hold on one second. It could have been that at some point something happened with her feet. And even though she was very productive, she either had debilitating arthritis with her feet or with her ankles that put her in that wheelchair, that made it so that she was not really able to walk successfully without a lot of pain. Okay, so it's not one of your grandmothers. Well, that is who I see in your house working with you, and so it's a friendly spirit. It is 2 generations back. She would have lived crossing the boundary between the 1800s and early 1900s. The wheelchair that I see her in, I think she may have passed in the late 60s or early 70s. Did you own your house? Or was it in your family? Or is that a new house for you? Hold on one second. I'm also looking at the rest of the house. She brings with her 3 positive spirits, but they come with her like they're under her cloak, like if she had a cloak on. Okay, so you want to go, it's a new house, he says. What you would want to do is look and see if it was part of a larger commune or farm community, because this woman is coming specifically to you to help you. And she has with her information from the spirits that she worked with before. But she's not, she doesn't appear to be a ghost. But that's who I see in your house. Not a fairy, unless fairies get in wheelchairs. I've never seen that before. Hold on one second. It's an M name. You're looking for a Mildred or a Maud. It's got an M and a D. I want to say Mildred, or maybe it's Mildred Maud. But that's what I'm getting as a possibility for name, Mildred or Maud. You can call her Maudie. Okay. So her first name is Maudie. If you want to address her and ask her for any information, ask Maudie. She's really good at making herbal medicines, and she wants you to know this. It's really important to her that you know that she was really good at making herbal medicines. And she thinks that part of what she is there to help you with, Wyatt, is to begin to work with the plants and the herbs around you to create some of the local and very powerful herbal medicines that she knew. So you may want to sit with her and ask her for information on those things. And one of the things I'm seeing is like a salicylic acid, but it's better than aspirin. Is she a spirit guide? She is. I think she is a spiritual committee member for this time. So if you're not aware of this, people, we have guides, but we also have spiritual committee members, and they can be other spirits from your family to helpful people who are interested in the same things you're in, or who have looked at your life path and said, I think I can fill in there and help that person out. So for this time period, I believe Maudie is a spiritual committee member who is acting as a temporary guide for you to begin working with the plants to do healing, and very strong healing. She would often use microdoses of the most important of the herbs that she used. So you want to look up herbal microdosing. It's not quite homeopathy, but it's not the dose of it that you would get from a normal herbalist. And she would use it in combination with other things. Go out, and you want to plant flowers, and you want to plant things like ginseng and Siberian ginseng and golden seal and arnica. So the herbs that have flowers attached to them, and that's where your fairies are coming in, because you're actually going to attract that information from the fairies or the devas as well as you plant them. You do want, again, the ginseng's the Siberian ginseng or the Rosalia rosacea, and the golden seal in there too. She's getting a little tired, but she's the one who has been around lately, and if you have a thought of, she's the biggest, most powerful spirit that's coming through that I see in your space right now, Wyatt. If you have a specific question about something, let me know in addition to that. But she is getting tired, and she's backing up, and she's patting you on the head and saying, you're a good man. So she is happy to work with you. Okay. Do we have anybody else asking a question, James? We have a little bit more time.
No. I'm looking through varying, let's see, over in Facebook, talking about gnomes and vibrators, and the Spaced Out Radio website.
Spaced Out Radicals.
Spaced Out Radicals.
Uh-huh.
It's Wyatt, and you've already done the Wyatt bits, and let's over in Spreaker. They're talking about computers. I asked a question about Métis heritage, got ignored. So, what the heck?
Okay. All right.
Enough with all the chat rooms. Really?
Enough with all the chat rooms. If you're not going to ask a question, I'm not going to play. But the main thing is, guys, if you do find, don't make your household spirits upset with you. If you're going to do something, and even this goes with paranormalists.
We got one.
Okay.
See, when we started talking about them, one popped up. Catherine, KJ says, when you get a chance, can you scan my house in Aurora, Colorado?
Okay, hold on. Well, you've got a couple younger children spirits. I don't know if you have younger children there, Catherine. I see a very fair-haired little girl with a lot of gold light around her, and she's probably around 5. And then hold on one second. I think it's a spirit, though. I don't think it's one of your kids. And it's actually interesting because she feels like a spirit. She feels like she may be a ghost, but she doesn't feel at all negative. And there's just a lot of... It just wears like a pinafore dress, look up pinafore dresses that kids in the late 1800s, early 1900s would wear. They'd usually be they could be made out of flour sacks. They would often be made out of... because this has a little flower print on it. And it looks like a cotton muslin with a little shirt with a cap sleeve and a button, like a mother of pearl button or shell button. And man, she's just the prettiest little thing. But she's got a lot of gold light around her. So that's one thing. And I feel like there's a second one.
Could you ask Elizabeth? Can you get a name?
Jemima? Gem or Jem or Jemima. Gem for short.
Okay. And how about, and go ahead with your other one you see there.
Her energy is sort of is getting really bright, and it's sort of, I feel like it's a younger boy who's about 3, and he looks like one of those kids in that TV show with from the 50s and the 40s or the 50s. He's dressed 40s or 50s with suspenders and short pants and a little shirt, and his hair combed off to the side. So 30s or 40s is probably the time period. Little Rascals. He looks like one of the Little Rascals. That's how he's dressed. And he seems like a year or two. He seems like at least a year younger than her. He's shorter than her. And his name is Mark. Or the name that comes up around him is Mark. And he has dark hair.
Do you know, would they be just attached to the land or the house, or would they have anything to do with Catherine?
I'm just curious if they're maybe attached to Catherine's kids. Because Catherine has kids. But they could be attached to the land or the house as well. I'm not sure what happened there, but I feel like something happened and they were both killed. Whether there could possibly have been a fire nearby or a barn fire, something like that. And so they didn't grow past that age.
Okay. She's saying that they're not where Catherine is saying they are not where she is at the moment.
The house is not where Catherine is. Yes, I get that. Yeah, they're not where she... Catherine, are you actually at the house or are you someplace else? That's what I didn't think they were near where you were.
Well, I'm guessing because I'm just reading the text,
yes.
And it could be they're not here, anti-tank missile at the moment, or automated teller machine.
Okay, yeah, they're not where she is. No, but they are in. I looked at the house that you mentioned. So I hope
hold on.
The right
Hold on.
House.
She's come back. Yeah. She is in that house, but she doesn't feel anything at the moment.
Oh, well, no, if you have something in your house, you want to look for them, but they're not bad. So what you would do, I'm thinking that they're more interested in when it's lively at your house and coming out. And
Elizabeth, if somebody wanted to do this again and get a hold of you, how would they do that?
They would go to ElizabethAnglin.com.
ElizabethAnglin.com. And they can get a hold of you there just through email.
Email info@ElizabethAnglin.com.
Okay, you faded out. Say your email again.
Info@ElizabethAnglin.com.
Info@ElizabethAnglin.com. That'd be really cool. You guys should give that a shot. Other than that, you have to wait till every weekend before she shows up. But please, give her a shout at ElizabethAnglin.com and see if you can make an appointment. Thank you, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. I'll see you guys later.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott, and I would like to invite you to listen Monday through Friday right here on Spaced Out Radio. 3 hours a night of the top stories with the top guests, ranging topics from UFOs to ETs, ghosts to Sasquatch, and everything in between. We are live every night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. So come on in and take a listen at spacedoutradio.com. Spaced Out Radio will take you out of this world.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large. Heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, news director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com. It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Attention Spaced Out Radio listeners. For only $5 a month, you can join Spaced Out Radio Space Travelers. Your membership at spacedoutradio.com will give you access to private fan area on the website, get you a monthly newsletter, draws for monthly swag, and a whole lot more. Sign up today to become a part of the Spaced Out Radio experience.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
It's time to go live on Spaced Out Weekend.
13, please. Oh, hi, Kevin. Oh, is that the time? Kevin, my friend, don't you find that watch just a little bit loud? Well, I certainly hope our buddy Bumblefoot is playing when we get there. Oh, you stinky big bundle of hair. I said Bumblefoot, not Bigfoot. Oh, it's going to be a long night.
It's time to head to the 13th floor of the old log cabin for Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. You can tweet James at James Tyson SOR. You can find him on Instagram, Spaced Out Weekend, as well as on Facebook. On YouTube, our channel is Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can check out our website, spacedoutradio.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
And now, perched high in his captain's chair, way above the clouds, here's James Tyson.
Thank you, Dave Scott. I've been told I should talk like Dave. Dave actually talks like this. But when he's on the radio, he talks like this. Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Weekend. I am your host, James Tyson, and it's good to have you along for the ride on this wonderful Sunday evening. Now, if you are listening to us through your device, we'd like to thank you. Oh, I can't talk like Dave. So anyway, thanks for tuning in to Spaced Out Weekend. It is Two Mediums and a Large. Thank you, Elizabeth Anglin, for talking about those mystical creatures again and peeking through people's laundry. I mean, scanning people's homes. I would check your wallets and your purses after Elizabeth had snuck through to see if she could get those little ghosties to pickpocket while you're not looking. It is I, though, speaking to you from the paranormal portals of the Pacific Coast here in the Cascadia on the 13th floor of the Spaced Out Radio Network, broadcasting from me to you. This has been some weekend, I gotta tell you. From one little Sprague graduating to the next one's year-end dance recital that went on for 3 days and nights. It's going to rain forever, I'm pretty sure, with that dancing. No, it's called hip-hop. I'm not sure what that dance was, but I'm pretty sure it's going to rain some kind of bizarre dance. But, yeah, I got in trouble for telling them their hats are on backwards. Is that a bad thing? Like, their hats are on backwards. Come on. I don't know. Anyway, tonight with us on Two Mediums and a Large is one medium. It is Skeeter Welhouse. She is I think she is our Sunday show now. She is every second Sunday on The Shift, and she is here every time we have a psychic coming on. For those of you who know Skeeter, she is, if you know Skeeter, not going to talk to you about her. But if you don't know Skeeter, she is a psychic medium, a spirit medium. She is and I don't want to get into that hedge witch things, because I think you used to be a hedge witch, didn't you? Maybe, I don't know if you still do the hedge.
Still do the hedge witch thing.
Oh, you do? Well,
yes.
We should really talk about that one day. But she is here to read for you. She is under the weather, which is better than being stabbed by the crazy homeless guy the other day. But
yes.
Under the weather is still, it's stabbing. They can put a Band-Aid on and it fixes relatively quick. But when you're sick, you're sick. It just kind of goes on and on and on. But if you want a reading from Skeeter, and Skeeter, just so we can get this right, this isn't calling into a psychic and say, is Uncle Frank okay? And can you tell me where he left my watch because I lent it to him? Yeah, she could possibly do that. But Skeeter can also kind of tell you if that dark shadow you saw running in your rearview mirror was a Bigfoot, a bear, or the fellow who was spooning with your wife as you pulled into the driveway. She can look into those things. Was it a UFO you saw when you were a kid? Do you really have an alien or an ET as a spirit guide? Ask Skeeter. I do. And then she scares me and I run. But it's a lot of fun. It is something different. It's not the same old where we're going to talk about, what Auntie so-and-so comes through, but you can ask her anything to do with what is on the other side. I wouldn't ask for the date and time and cause of your death, because that could be just darn creepy. And we do have free will, so you could obviously jump off a cliff and just screw everything up for the prediction and make her look bad. And I know you guys, you would do that. You can give us a call at 575-694-6634, or as Dave would say, 575-694-6634 here on Spaced Out Weekend. So you can give us a call or give me a shout on James Tyson 32. That's James _Tyson 32. And you know what? We do have a caller in now, and I'm going to see if this is going to work, because last time we had this gentleman, I'm going to have to phone him back, I think, because, oh, crap. Oh, look at that. I'm going to have to phone him back anyway because it dropped off. But we have a fellow calling in, and I will add him. Skeeter, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I are fine. I'm just waiting for Peter to... Hello, sir. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am fine, sir. Where are you calling from?
I am phoning from Johannesburg.
Oh, you are one of our wonderful South African listeners. Thank you very much.
Hi, Skeeter. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I did actually try to contact you a couple of months ago, but I kind of chickened out, so now I put my big man pants on, and so now I'm ready for you.
All righty.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I was wondering if you can maybe tell me about my spirit guides, and do they have anything I need to know?
I can do that. Let me tune in real quick. Because someone's jumping out there like, yay, he's finally asking about us. There's definitely a gentleman there. I'm asking if he's human. Yes. Is he related to you? No. Do you know him? No. Is he associated with you in some way? Yes.
Okay. Does he have a name?
I'm hearing something, but it's not something I'm completely familiar with.
Oh, okay. Well, does he have
It's
a
almost
message?
like author or author. Arthur. I'm going to go with Arthur. Arthur.
Is there something he needs me to know?
You need to slow down, he says.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
He says for you, it's you have almost a childlike wonder and a strong drive. And you're constantly going and going and going and just pushing to know. It's like you have to know. You're constantly dissecting things and taking things apart, and both in thought and philosophically, and it's like you're trying to figure out the meaning of the universe from simple things. You overthink.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
He says it's not a bad thing because that's what helped you as a kid get as far as you are now. Because without that curiosity, the options that were available to you wouldn't have been as useful without this. But you've missed a lot of simple things because of this. And that's why you have a hard time connecting with people. It's kind of like you're good at, hi, how are you? What's up? How's it going? But when it comes to more intimate relationships, you get in your own way. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And it's just because you never learned how to slow down and accept a flower for being just a flower. Or just enjoying the sunset for being a sunset. You start admiring, I mean, it's not that you don't enjoy the sunset because you're looking at the colors and the textures and the clouds or the reflection off the water or whatever it is, you're taking all the pieces in instead of just looking out. For some odd reason, he's bringing up larger birds of prey, that you have an admiration for them because they can see the whole picture at once. Is that true?
I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. Like eagle and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It somehow makes sense.
He says put it under your hat and think about it. Because for you, being able to see the big picture and the small picture, and that's what large birds of prey do. They can see a massive landscape and yet pinpoint that mouse, that chick, that rabbit, that whatever it is that they eat, and be able to see the small picture, that detail that they need while overseeing the entire large picture. And while you're really good at admiring the small details, learning to see the larger picture is something that you need to pick up from these birds. So you may want to take time to start admiring and really taking in these larger birds, these really big birds of prey. I think one in your area, and it may not be in your area, but it's one he wants you to look into, is the harpy eagle.
I'll do so. Tell him thank you.
But he says next time you see a girl, don't worry about asking her all about her background and a job interview. Just say hi.
A girl?
And let her do the talking.
I don't know what I'm going to do with a girl, but I'll ask her.
He says it's just an opportunity to learn how to talk to someone.
Okay, I'll do so.
Because you're delightfully inquisitive. He says you're being really well behaved right now by not asking me 1,000 questions.
Because I had a lot, yes. But you told me to slow down, so I'll slow down.
No, that's good. That's really good. I love it when people listen to me. James never does, so I love it when someone else does.
Well, maybe he's a little bit more mature than me.
Yeah, right.
But do you have any other questions that I can help you with?
Maybe, have I ever seen a UFO?
Yes, you have.
Yesterday?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Do you know who it was?
It's the blue-gray ones. It starts with an A.
Arcturus?
Yeah, no, the other ones.
Oh, okay. Have I seen more than one?
Yes. You tend to draw their attention because of your desire to look for those things and because of your ability to see the finer details in the big picture. You're very good at catching those odd shapes, those unique light patterns. There's even something that makes your hair stand up and you're drawn to certain spots.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of things, but the thing is, I don't know what I'm seeing.
That's normally the case.
Yeah, so must I ignore it and just don't pay attention to it?
The entity that's stepping forward is telling me, please don't ignore us, but don't get too excited, because not all of us are friendly.
Is it the ones that I'm seeing constantly?
Those are the grayish bluish ones. They look really neat. They're kind of cool looking. I don't know who they are. They're an A name. I'm hoping one of the people in the chats pop up with it. But they're part of the higher council, they're telling me. And they're more of a communicator, diplomatic, he says is a good word to use for you. And they're just observing and taking you in.
Okay, so should I just acknowledge them or ignore them, or what must I do? Because I'm seeing these things constantly, like everywhere.
Wave. Say hi.
Okay.
They're definitely trying to get your attention, but they're trying not to scare you at the same time.
Oh, okay. Well, at least I now who they are. That's been
Madigan, something along those lines.
Oh, okay.
Is a name of one that he says if you see him, you can say hi.
Well, they all look alike to me. So how am I going to know him?
Okay, no, he says don't worry about it. Once you start getting to know us, it's okay. And don't worry, we're not abducting, we're just communicating.
Oh, okay. No, it's fine. If they do, I'll just lie back and enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
He says that's cool.
What?
Just tell them to use enough lubrication, please.
They're not that kind. He said that's a totally different group.
Okay, that's good to know. Then the other thing I wanted to know is that in our country, this is now totally off the subject, there's been like earthquakes and tornadoes, which has never happened in this country. So is that due to the shift that's happening?
That's part of the shift.
Oh, okay. Do I need to be worried to move? Do I need to immigrate?
He gave me permission to call him Max. Max says where you are, there may be some disruption, but don't move right now because where you're at, your biggest threat is political, not geographical or meteorological.
Yeah, no,
so
the
just kind of hold state. Hold tight.
Okay, I'll hold tight. Then the other thing I wanted to know, there's been a lot of reports about Bigfoot. Is there actually Bigfoots in our country in the mountains? Or is it just people seeing big apes?
It's not a Bigfoot like we have here in the Northwest where I'm at, or like I'm used to in Colorado when I was little. It's a cousin. And this is something that I caught on another show about, they were talking about various species of Bigfoots and their migrations and stuff. And he's confirming that it is of that same, what is it, genus?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different type. So they're just different enough to where we'd be like, I don't know, but if we got a DNA sample, we'd be like, oh, yeah, no, definitely part of the family.
Okay, I'll try and get one.
Okay.
Awesome.
Hey, Skeeter, are they ET based too, like the Echo that's here?
Are they Echo-like? Yeah. No. Are they Echo-like? Yes. Are they Echo-like? No. They're not Echo-like up here. There's something just slightly different. But they do the matrixing.
Oh, what do you mean?
People have witnessed where they'll see a Bigfoot, and I'm using air quotes, vanish into midair, and it almost looks like they're pixelating.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like they are interdimensional beings.
Okay. And where did they originate?
The other realms. So they're saying that technically you could say we're ET, but we're not too fond of that description.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. I'll greet him if I see them.
Yeah.
Okay. And
say hi, ask them if they want to go out for a beer.
And Peter's his spirit guide, you can call him Max, or is that the Arturian that you can call Max?
That's the ET that you can call Max.
Arturian.
Okay.
Arturian.
Okay, so let's get on to the weird one.
Yeah, because this hasn't been weird at all.
Yeah. Well, this is Space Out Radio, so nothing is weird about this. I read a story in March about this guy named Sydney, and apparently he's got this very rare condition called androgen syndrome, which basically means he was born with both male and female reproductive systems. So he claimed, but I mean, he was diagnosed schizophrenic, but he claimed he was actually abducted and got pregnant that way. Is that a true story, or was that actually fake news?
Okay, I'm getting two voices hitting me really hard on that one. One saying very carefully answer that question, and the other one is saying tread lightly.
So it's like masturbation. We don't talk about it and we don't acknowledge it.
They're more concerned about... I'm waiting for the proper words. Because there's a lot of stigma around that particular thing, they want to be very careful because they don't want to feed any bias, whether positive or negative. People tend to run with things without fully understanding them and do more harm than good. So they want to be careful because as humans, we don't have the capacity to fully appreciate or understand the delicacies of this. They don't want to insult anyone by saying that we're not capable, but they're saying for our own sake, things happen and we do some things, but they're going to leave this one alone because they just don't want to set anything out there that could cause more harm than good. And only because of the human condition.
No, that's fine. I was just curious, but I think I got my answer on that one.
Yeah, I think in a roundabout way you did.
Okay, well, thank you anyway for your time. It was nice chatting finally to you, and thank you, James. And thank you for all the nice programs and all the interesting programs, and we will still be listening on this side of the world.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you, Peter.
I love that.
Yeah, you take care. And
okay, thank you. I'll find you if I find any interesting stories again.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, we'd love to hear them from you. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Oh, that was cool. It's interesting. We have a large, hairy, apey kind of being pretty well in any place on the planet where there's some cover and a place for them to hide. I know I watched a documentary on the Yeti, and they went through and got all the DNA that they could off various bits of hair that was claimed to have been found all through anywhere from those guys who were the porters up Mount Everest, those guys, all that stuff, and it was all sent to a lab, and a scientist in Great Britain tested them all, and they mostly came back. They were all of them that actually could get DNA were all matched. They were a similar animal, and the closest matched was a polar bear. And there is no polar bear in those areas, but there had been. They matched it with a polar bear DNA that has been extinct for a few, like 100,000 years or so.
That's cool.
So they believe this bear, and actually back in the 1930s, a group of Nazis were trekking through the mountains, and they ran across a bear and shot it, and it's stuffed in some head Nazi guy's castle, and they took samples from that, but it was so old and so depleted they couldn't get DNA. But it was a bear that matched pretty much to what these extinct bears look like, a very flat head on the top, and they also tested if you ever seen, like, we have grizzlies up in this area, and if you get a grizzly moving on dirt or through snow, if on a natural gait, its front paw will go down into the earth and make a print, and his back paw naturally double prints it. And they took a cast of it, and it looked exactly like a cast that someone said was a Yeti footprint from back in the day, back in the 40s or something, one of the first, but it matched perfectly.
Wow, that's cool.
And they actually saw it. It was the grizzly bear double foot smack. So that was interesting. That DNA actually went back all the way to a bear that is extinct, unless that was a bear that wasn't a bear.
I don't know.
Yeah. What do you say about that, smarty trousers?
Hey, you know what? There's some really neat things out there that we think are extinct that are still around, and there are some things that have come in and out through these gateways, these portholes, these veils, that, you know, we catch them when we catch them, and when we don't, we don't. They come and go as they please.
Now,
so,
Little Miss Psychic Everything, you just said that there are a number of things here that on Earth that we think are extinct, but they aren't.
Yes.
Can you tell me?
No.
Give me why?
I don't know, because I just felt like saying no.
No. Don't make me pull this car over.
I'm sorry. It's the medicine talking.
It's the medicine. Yeah. Yeah.
What it is there's, you know, like Loch Ness, and I know I'm going to be stirring the pot with this, but there are things out there, particularly in our oceans, that we catch sight of, and, you know, there's certain things that we've seen, that we've recorded in our history and have passed off as mythology, as great storytelling, because we can't quite tell them. There's certain animals that have there was a small deer-like animal recently. I don't know why the guides are leading me to this part. I want to. Which part of the world is it? Africa?
Dick.
Yes. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be gone. It was supposed to be extinct. It was in the fossil records, long gone. And then all of a sudden, someone caught a glimpse of it. And they got some pictures, and they sent it in, and biologists and environmentalists and all these people got really excited and went to the location where it was at, and it was gone.
Yeah, because they move.
It
was right there.
But they did a wide sweep of what would be a respectable territory, and they even went beyond that, suspecting possible migration. And it's like it was a dream. It was like, wow, what happened? And they're still looking for it.
It's not a dik-dik then. Dik-diks are all over the place.
Yeah, this is something that's rare, and it almost looks like it's a little deer, but it's got an odd nose.
Oh.
And they were really...
That's a dick pic. Sorry. Okay. No, so how long ago would that have been? Somebody saw this little small African deer?
A couple of years ago. Because, let's see here. When did I take my nth class? That would have been 4 years ago. And they've been combing for it. And there's several animals that they've seen kind of like pop up. And we get images because, every human has a some kind of device attached to them now that they can take pictures. We're catching more images of these things, but when it comes to actually locating them after the image, it's really hard, and it's because they've gone back into that other place, that other realm, other layer where they're safer.
Yeah. I know. A lot of the stuff that has survived are the small things, like the Irish elk or the giant Ice Age elks and stuff like that. They're gone because they're easy for food to any biped who wanted to go knock one on the head. But those kind of things went quite a while ago. But it's the tiny ones that kind of you miss those ones.
Well, it's the tiny ones, and there's a few big ones. I mean, we're going back to Loch Ness. That's something that's really big, and it's really hard for people to be like, okay, so there's this giant sea monster in this little lake. It's
not a little lake. It's a BF lake.
But still, it's not an ocean. It's a contained spot. You should be able to locate it. And that area is very high on paranormal activity. Whether it's Fae related, whether it's occult related, whether it's ghosts, there's a lot of activity in that area. And people are like, okay, I've seen this. I've been trying to get pictures of it. We're trying hard to get something to show that this is here. And once we get close to it, it's like all of a sudden it's gone. Where did it go?
Well, I believe, because I was told this, that it died. It laid 2 eggs, and one will hatch, and one isn't fertile. But the last one died.
I've heard that too.
You probably heard it from me, who got it from Joanna, who got it from Rob, her alien spirit guide.
I don't know.
I don't know. You're the psychic. You tell me.
I probably heard it from you. I think out of all of them, I think I heard it from someone else, though.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that is kind of cool. It did exist, and it was only a female left, and it did that fancy reptilian thing by self-fertilizing one of its
asexual.
eggs. Asexual reproduction. But one of the eggs will hatch in about 40 years, and the other one won't. And then we'll be seeing these things all over again. And if it's a male, we're a little more screwed, but maybe it'll be twins. I don't know.
We'll see.
Or by then, if the Loch Ness actually still exists. Interesting.
It will still exist, and if me and you were to take a field trip there, it would be actually very interesting.
Oh, that's a creepy thing.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from,
when a spirit medium says, it'll be very interesting. Don't go. It's like, no, get on the bus. It'll be very interesting. No.
I have 7 invitations for people I don't know, but you're all welcome up to my house on the hill.
Oh my God. It's like the guy... we've had a cancellation on everyone on the flight. It seems they were all going to a psychic conference, and at the last minute, you had the whole plane to yourself.
Exactly.
Again, we're with Skeeter, talking to dead people and alive people and spirit guides and aliens. Give her a call at 575-694. Why what?
Wyatt has a question.
Wyatt.
And it's a good one.
Excellent.
A couple of weeks ago, me and him were talking about a lady spirit that was with him, a soulmate in a past life.
Right.
And I told him that they have that we reincarnated and we can and do change gender, which is true. As we go from life to life, we experience different forms. Sometimes we're human, sometimes we're something else, but it's all part of us learning the lessons that we need to learn in order to ascend beyond this plane of consciousness. And he wants to know if this happens to spirit guides, if they are with you through several lives. And the reason he wants to know this is because I did feel a lot of male energy from the lady who is one of his current spirit guides. Because spirit guides can be many different things, I'm going to say yes to some of them and no to some of them. It depends on what they are. If it's a spirit guide who is of human likeness or of this particular plane, then it's possible for them to change sex. They can be male, they can be female. As we trade places, as we become more of a guide and they come back to this plane to learn their lessons, the sexes will change. If it is a higher or lower vibration being from a different layer of consciousness, of a different plane, then that can get a little tricky. They can be of a different sex, but not always. They normally tend to stay the same. A good example is the angels. Angel Michael is going to always remain male. He's not going to flip on us and become Michelle. And Wyatt is following up with, okay, did you come up with a name? And she's saying it's Megan or Mega. Megan, and you can call her Meg. Or something along those. I can't quite make it out. It's an M name. Like I want to say Megan, and you can call her Meg. And I'm going to go with the fact that she's human in essence, but there's something a little magical about her. So she could be a mixed breed where she's part human, part something else. So she's a really neat creature. Very beautiful spirit. But yeah, definitely Megan, Meg, she really likes Meg. So I hope that answers all of Wyatt's questions. Do you have any that you can ask on his behalf, James?
No, that sounds actually pretty cool.
Cool. I hope that helps, Wyatt. I am trying to pay attention. He says, okay, cool. I love you, Wyatt.
Okay. And I just got notified there was something in the Facebook chat. There was a question that popped up there, and I bounced in to see through all the pictures of gnomes, look at my place. Joe's asked if I can't call in. It was a lull in the calls. A few weeks ago, Skeeter quickly mentioned that there is a possible juvenile BF around my place. Bigfoot around his place. Really stinky. Oh, yes. I would love to hear more about my forest friends from Skeetor. And that's from Northern California, Sierra Nevada.
Buddy.
Joe is stinky buddy.
No, it was a juvenile. And you know how teenagers are in the human realm? They forget to wear their deodorant. They forget to bathe. They walk by you and you spray them with something that smells better than what they do when they walk by. That's kind of what this guy was. He's definitely a juvenile. Probably early teens, mid-teens in their world. So he's probably closer to 20s for our age, but for their age, that's kind of teens. I'm asking if it's Bigfoot related. And they're like, yeah, it's definitely Bigfoot related. You should know better. He's at first I thought maybe he was one of the ones that they call, skunk man or skunk related. No, it's just a teenager who hasn't learned the proper grooming of his kind, and it's not unusual. It's just like humans. We have to teach them. And also the fact that he is male, I guess with the sexual maturity, they get a little bit muskier. And he's checking you out because you're a dude, you're a guy. So there's a lot of curiosity, a lot of questions. Are you like they are? What's the deal? Do you guys? You know how it is when you take a little kid to the zoo, and you happen to see one of the animals peeing, or they just happen to be working on making a baby of whatever they are, and your kid's like, "What's that?" That's kind of what this juvenile is doing. He's kind of like not so much in the innocence of a little kid, but more in the curiosity of, okay, I'm going through this weird transition. What about them? Do they go through this too? So he's kind of checking you out because he's trying to get an idea of what's going on. You're an observation project, and he just happened to get closer than he should have. Don't worry, the adults called him in, reminded him about privacy and boundaries. So you're good.
Don't worry, the 70 or 80 adults with large sticks called him back because
yes.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Those 7 or 8 foot things with the clubs, yeah, they're all on our side. No worries. Yeah, that's kind of wild. What other fauna does he have bouncing around up there in the Sierra Nevadas?
There's definitely some types of Bigfoots.
Feet?
Big feet. Goose, geese. Gosses, mongooses.
So he's got those.
There's something that looks. It's definitely one of the elementals, and it's because it is that foresty Sierra, the Sierra Mountains. But there's something, it's not part of the Sierra Mountains. There's something nearby. I'm horrid at my geography. I don't have a map in front of me. There's something nearby that is absolutely, they're calling it like the blue hole, or this water thing that just absolutely draws them. And there's a lot of things that come in and out of there. Definitely some ET activity that comes around. But that's normal. They're telling me, oh, that's normal for the area. You see that in the morning commute. It's not a big deal.
You see that on the morning commute?
Of element. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, we're coming in and out quite regularly. And I got the joke because of where some of the things I saw growing up, especially driving around New Mexico. It's part of the morning commute, so it's a private inside joke that they're picking on me about.
When you say elementals, are they just the natural trees, rocks, clouds, or are they big Spider-Man skin-walking nasty things?
More like nymphs. Water spirits, earth spirits. This is almost kind of bordering into that fae territory of nymphs and sprites and that ancient energy of things that were here before any of us were, that now live on through these things.
Is the blue hole you were talking about, is it a portal, or is it could it be a body of water?
It's a body of water, but there's a porthole within the water.
Portal within the water. So it's not in the bottom of the, under the water, there's a hole. It's basically, it's within the water itself, like a reflecting, like the mirror kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're okay with Joe being there?
Oh, yeah, they like Joe.
Okay, that's cool. Nothing negative?
There's a few things that are negative of a not so friendly vibe, but to be real honest, if you just kind of leave them alone and stay out of their space, they like to stay out of your space.
Which is a lot of fun because you wouldn't know when you're in their space.
Well, you know when you walk into a park and all of a sudden the hair stands on the back of your arms and on the back of your neck, and you're like, I need to go the other way now. That's how you know. Yeah, he lives in an area where there's a lot of lakes. Yeah, there's one in particular where they're calling it the Blue Hole, and I guess there's a drop-off in it, and that's where they are.
Oh, get Leviathan shaking its head in the back there. You've got, I know I've flown over when I used to do surveillance in this area. We have a mountain range. We're at about 7,000 feet. And there are some of those holes in the tops of peaks. They're a perfect circle, and they're that glacier blue when the glaciers melt. It's a blue color, like I think it's caused by the silt of the mountain when the glaciers are melting. But it's a completely different color than a regular lake. It's definitely a blue body of water and a perfect circle. Like you see them on a lot of tops of in this area anywhere, the Pacific Northwest, on the top of an extinct volcano or a vent where it's perfectly round in the top, and when the snow melts in the spring, it's got this blue hole in it, or blue.
And they're beautiful.
Circle.
It's this beautiful. The more pure the water is, the more blue it is.
Interesting.
That's why when you go to the grocery store, some waters are more blue looking, and that's why they want to tint their water bottles blue, is because we instinctually know that the more blue the water is, the more pure it is, and the more likely we are to drink from it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
And this blue hole is not a perfectly round lake. It almost looks like it's some funky birthmark-shaped lake.
That's funny, because I'm sure we all have different shaped birthmarks. But
yeah,
it's a birthmark shape. Really?
This is a particular birthmark that they normally associate with shamans and people of a particular magical background. And it's usually a strawberry birthmark on the back of the neck, and usually within the hairline.
Oh, great. My highly sensitive oldest daughter has one of those. Along with 3 9s. I still don't know what that means. We are going to come back.
That is absolute spirit.
Absolute spirit. We're going to come back with more from Skeeter Welhouse, and we will take your questions through chat. We will take your questions on call on Skype. We'll be back after this 7-minute stretch.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian paranormal investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Coming September 29th to October 1st, the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. Hi, this is Dave Scott. The event will be held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Come join us for an amazing weekend of speakers talking all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Sasquatch, intuitiveness. Listen to great speakers like Miriam Delicato, Samantha Mowat, and the crypto guru Ronald Murphy. Get your VIP passes by going to spacedoutradio.com and clicking on the Paracon banner. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. loud and proud. In high definition, Radio 702 rocks Las Vegas.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Tonight's edition of Spaced Out Weekend is brought to you by spacedoutradio.com, where you can now sign up to become a Space Traveler member. Now, for the final time tonight, here's Spaced Out Weekend's James Tyson.
Welcome back, everybody, to Spaced Out Weekend. 'Tis I, James Tyson, as David said. We are talking to Skeeter. We are finding out exactly what is going on and what is going on with a number of people out there. You have been asking questions in the chat rooms, which is kind of cool. And we have a couple of callers backed up here. We've got Christopher, who calls in every so often, but this time something happened the other night when Dave had his buddy on with the Ghost Box, and Christopher was actually also wanting to know, still trying to get names for his spirit guides. I've already told him. It was, I think one was Mo, Curly, and, anyway. Christopher, how are you tonight?
I'm alright. Okay, Nico.
Oh,
Will Robinson.
Yes,
Painter.
get it on. All right, Christopher, Skeeter, how you feeling?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm hanging in.
Just hanging in. You've got 55 more minutes, Skeeter.
I can do it.
We'll let you go. And then you go to sleep, go to work in the morning. Go ahead, Christopher.
It's nice to hear from you, Skeeter.
Oh, it's nice to hear from you, Christopher. So what's up?
I was on Ghost Box this Thursday. I had really interesting information come to me. I figured out that besides my grandmother, there's somebody that refers to me as my mom.
Yeah.
She was my foster mother. I would like to know if I'm correct on this, if you can find this out for me.
Was it his foster mom? No. Was it his foster mom? No. No.
Okay, may I ask who it was?
I'm not quite sure how to interpret this, but she's... Are you a birth mother? No. You a past mother. Yes. It was a mom from a past life.
Oh, wow.
So she knows you through that connection.
She seems to know me better than I do know myself.
Yeah, because she's stayed with you. I'm asking her about the past life because it seems kind of short. And why is she so attached? Because at first I'm like, are you the birth mother? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, and I feel someone else come in and go, but not from this life. It was another woman going, no, not this life, but... And she's like, yeah, so... I guess in this past life, she gave birth to you, but she didn't have she to be your mom.
Oh, like in this life taken away?
Yeah. So
interesting.
It's like she gave birth to you and the birth itself killed her.
Wow.
And she made a promise to protect you and follow through and make sure you were cared for. And she says it's kind of a running theme for you. You don't always get to keep your mom, your birth mother.
Wow. So this is actually the first time that my birth mother found me, I bet.
Yeah. She says we've kind of come through here and there, but it's a little hard to make it a little clear as to who's who.
Now I know. And what was interesting on Ghostbox, they talked about this current life, why I'm not supposed to contact the male side of my current family.
Yeah.
And why the guys are okay with me contacting my distant ones over there. Help me on the other side, I mean over there, physically.
Yeah.
Because they're not too great, that side here.
Because of the stigmas, because of the prejudices on this side of the pond.
Yes.
Her words, not mine. There's a lot more against you here.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they kind of talked to you last time about one of the reasons why you need to not be discouraged by the laws that would make it difficult for you to go over there.
Mm-hmm.
Is because those laws were created to prevent people from shipping off people like you and passing the buck. But for someone like you could petition to go.
Because I have a legitimate reason.
Yeah. And they said France opened up the door for you to start doing that if you paid attention.
Yeah, I have. And that's where my roots are, coincidentally. You and I have talked about Monaco and stuff.
Yep.
So that's right. That's basically where home is, physically, ancestral-wise. Ain't this kind of ironic?
It's kind of neat, actually.
I'm watching this with irony. It's like all my favorite psychics were right. I'm just watching this with tremendous pleasure.
Well, it's nice when you have multiple individuals kind of zone in on the same thing.
Yes.
And it's a validation for them as well as you.
It all helps us grow. The
yeah.
Validations. Also, when we're wrong, it helps us grow too, makes us better intuitives.
Yeah. But for you, this is something you need to be paying attention to, because here you were looked at as kind of, and this is going to sound rude, so I apologize, and even she doesn't like the term, but she says here you were treated as if you were disposable. But luckily you found people who loved you enough, who tried to get you into places where you'd be taken care of.
Yes. I'm okay with that term. There's a movie called The Forgotten. You should watch this, Skeeter.
I've seen that one, and I can't get through it without 2 boxes of Kleenex.
Same with me. Reminds me of I cry every time I watch it.
Yeah. I've only been able to get through it once, and I had a couch full of used Kleenex afterwards. It was not a pretty sight.
You should see my room full of Kleenexes.
But no, you've always been digging for your roots. You've been trying to find where you belong and making a place for yourself. And yes. You've been gifted with some very good people who have come into your life and are protective of you and are pushing you to grow and explore, which, out of all honesty, most people wouldn't do. They'd look at you and pass by. things are happening in Europe where they're kind of looking at a lot of Americans going, you know what? If you need to come here, come here. So she just wants you to know that we're here and we're still watching out for you and protecting you. She says, I'm keeping my promise.
I was watching that speech by the new president over there, and he said that in his speech, and I got emotional.
Oh, I don't blame you. I would have too.
Obviously, your French is getting good.
Actually, some of it I know from Astral, like I do Italian.
Okay, now you're just being crazy.
And German.
Yeah.
What?
I said, now you're just being crazy.
Skeeter's okay, I mentioned this since I talk to you in PM sometimes.
Sure.
Me and her in private message on Facebook, you would think I'm off my gourd.
No.
And we can actually read each other's linguistic writings.
Okay.
We're very similar.
You are off your gourd. Okay, I'm kidding, Christopher. Christopher, we have a young lady behind you named Susan. Before we go, Christopher, Skeeter, do you have a name to any of Christopher's guides?
The mother that was just here, she's telling me it's like Lulu.
Okay.
But it's a little bit fancier. I can't pronounce it. And she kind of rolled her eyes and giggled and told me I could tell you to call her Lulu.
Okay. I'll ask her for a fancier version so that you understand the
It's a beautiful French name. It's not traditional French. It's more of that, she's telling me Etruscan French. I don't know if that's a real thing.
Yeah, that's Provençal. That's Monaco. That's where my roots are.
Cool.
Okay. So you understand it, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Luciane, actually, would be the fancy version of it.
Luciane?
That sounds about right.
Luciane.
Yes.
Lulu.
Lucine.
You pass me the puck, I put her in the net. That's all the Frenches I know, you know. For breakfast, I have...
Très bien, chien.
Très bien.
Très bien.
All right, Christopher. Thanks, brother.
I love you all. I'll talk to you on the flip side on Facebook later.
You bet. Thanks,
Bien
Christopher. Bien nuit. Dodo time. Susan.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Susan.
Yes, I'm here.
You are here. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Canada.
I've been there. Gosh darn it. And you're probably on the sleepy side. The other side of the mountain.
Well, no, it's after 2 in.the morning, but that's when sort of the night comes alive.
Yes, it does. Look under the sheets. No, I'm kidding. Don't look in the closet. It's dark in there. Go ahead for Skeeter.
Hi, Skeeter. I was wondering what you pick up on. I've been working on a project for a long, long time, since 1975. And I have many guides and guardians around me, and I've kind of been working on a project I call the 13th Bridge.
Yeah, and you've got a couple books that you're wanting to publish on it, or have published on it.
Well, I've published bits and pieces all over the internet because I'm not an artist. I'm an orator. I'm more of a speaker than I am like a writer, and I definitely don't have the art talent. And I have used proper math and proper physics to prove my 12-level universe, and nobody's been able to debunk it. So what I'm wondering is, how do I get the right kind of power, the right kind of support circle under what I'm doing?
You need to publish your first book.
Okay.
Because right now, where you're putting your information, it's not reaching the right eyes.
Okay.
You need to not worry so much about anyone disagreeing with you or arguing with you. You just need to get it out there.
Okay. That makes sense.
And the thing is you really need to start circulating. Our beloved Elizabeth has gone to a couple of events where they talk about stuff like this, if I remember correctly. And there are there's a lot in Europe, but there are symposiums and there are underground groups that talk about what you've been writing about.
Yeah, and I've been involved with those underground type groups myself for since probably 1975.
Yeah, and you need to start getting more networked amongst beyond your circle.
Okay.
Watch out for the ones who claim they can help you, because they just want the information.
That's what I've sort of spent my life dodging, is the people that want to capitalize on things where you end up making 5% and they make 95%. Or that you sign a contract, and I had a few of them that were basically silencing contracts. Had I signed them, yes, I would have gotten a sum of money, but then nobody would have published my work for 25 years.
Yeah. And also be careful of the groups who want to exploit it in negative ways. Not so much financial or gypping you out of something, but who want to who want to tear it down and make a joke of it or discredit it.
Yeah, it'll be pretty hard to do that because I've used real math and real physics.
Just be careful. They want me to leave it at that.
Okay. So just put the pedal to the metal. How long do you think it would take me if I got real serious about
if you started putting it out there, especially within the next 2 years, if you started really hard the rest of this year and next year, you'd be seeing something by about 2019, 2020. End of 2019, beginning of 2020, you'll start seeing a lot of attention coming your way. And not in rock star levels, but for our field, you'd be definitely getting some people going, okay, show me more.
Okay. So in other words, keep the first part of what I'm putting out simple enough that a 5-year-old can understand it, and then expand from there.
Yes.
It's like planting a seed. It's a little junior. The junior thing gets a lot of attention, and then as it gets bigger, by the time the audience realizes that it's in their face.
And also you want to keep it layman so that people can grasp it and ask questions.
Skeeter,
and
would it help
to avoid the details?
Would it help to get a ghostwriter?
For her, it might be a little bit difficult. If you did get a ghostwriter, make sure it's a technical ghostwriter, someone who's used to writing technical work.
Okay. Actually, what I need to find is somebody who is a technical type of artist.
To be real honest, I think I know kind of what you've been working on.
Okay.
Yeah, you're going to need more than an artist. You're going to need someone who's really comfortable with sacred geometry. You're going to need a mathematically inclined artist.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Yeah. Wow.
Someone who's very comfortable with the Fibonacci, someone who's very comfortable with 7D type concepts. And you're going to need someone who is willing to open their mind to that. The reason they're kind of talking about a technical writer is so that you can create a manual of sorts to help aid the artist. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I've got my first string of technical drawings are already done.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense. Is there any benefit of teaching myself?
There is, so that you can better explain it to the layman.
Okay. Well, then maybe that's what I might spend the next week doing, is seeing if I can learn how to do this on the internet. They say you can learn almost anything you want to learn on YouTube, so I'll research that a little bit deeper so that I make sure that, number one, I'm hiring somebody who knows what they're doing, or I figure out how to do it.
And they're telling me to really look for the kind of artists you're looking for. Look Mediterranean, look Japan, look overseas.
Okay.
Where they have an appreciation for the math within the art.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Makes absolute perfect sense.
Okay. Because if you can get some pieces out that way to particularly universities that do have classes in sacred geometry, usually you'll find it in their art departments, or you'll find it in their advanced math classes. Those are some really good contacts to go chasing after. Pay attention to your gut as you're going through names. And you've got a guide who kind of, I don't know if it's they pinch you or they poke you, or it's some kind of weird tingly sensation, but it tends to intensify when you're on the right path. Pay attention to that.
Yeah, it's a cycled off soul family called the Source.
Yeah, I'm familiar. But yeah, and try to find some people who can also explain it not just in mathematical, scientific terms, but also in a spiritual way. And I'm using air quotes around spiritual.
Now you've got me all curious. I want to know all about it now.
What I have defined is I defined the 12-level universe.
Very cool.
So what I've done is I've connected like energy is color, frequency, light, sound, tone, and vibration in a lower 6. And in an upper 6, what I've done is I've written all the mathematical and physics equations that prove each of those things, like color, frequency, light, sound, tone, and vibration. But then what I've also done is I've also anchored 0 point, and I've actually walked through 1, 2, and 3, and then body 4, 5, and 6, and then I've walked through body 7, 8, and 9, aligned to 10, 11, and 12D. When people talk like in 5D, they're really just talking low astral. Even 6D is low astral. 7D is where you start with your higher self and you kind of move upwards. So this is a body of work I've been working on since 1985 or 75. And actually even a little bit before that, because I drowned in 1966, and that's where the information all started flowing to me. And I'd come out with things when I was like 8 and 10 years old, and like people would look at me and think, where the heck did she get that from? And I just had this innate ability, almost scary, and I've had to be kept away from many things. Like, I'm probably one of the only people that can't probably name 8 rock bands, and yet I deal in used LPs. I just don't keep that information in my head.
Wow. But that's because you have other stuff that's more important in there.
Way more important, yeah. And I guess on putting it all together for a long time, I kept thinking, like, it's all so surreal. Like, who's going to believe me? And you have to get more work done. And I battled everything you could possibly battle. The single woman buying a home alone in Toronto. Yeah. And, by the time you got your 18 hours of stuff done in a day, there wasn't an awful lot of time left to dream and then go through those kind of 18 hours again where you would spend an hour on working on the spiritual stuff and then a couple hours on your work and then a couple hours on your spiritual stuff. So it was all kind of interesting how I put everything together, because I'm only 58, and that's like I've got like about 8 lifetimes in one already, because I haven't slept very much.
No, normally when you have that information in your head, it's really hard to sleep because your brain is part human, so it's trying to make sense of it. It's trying to put the pieces together, and because another part of your mind is not human or no longer tied to the human plane, it's wanting to further explain it and explore it. It's like, oh my God, it's home. I get it. And yeah, it creates quite a whirlwind.
Yeah, so I've now bought like a big old building that's got the ability to turn it into some kind of, I don't know, great metaphysical gathering center or something over time. But now I have room to put out my rice machines, and I mean, I've got all kinds of education in alternative health and healing. I'll send you a good shot of healing energy after you're off the air.
Thank you.
But there's a lot of things like that I kept studying and studying and studying and studying. I just couldn't seem to get enough of different things, and all of them were all sort of untangible type things. Like a lot of energy healing that you study is everybody gets something different from it. So now I'm sort of putting all that all together. I'm finishing up a thesis in my doctorate in metaphysics. And I'm to the point where I guess I'm ready to, I've gone out on the radio and done a number of things in the past, but I always hid under pseudonyms so no one would know who I was. I wasn't quite ready, I guess, to go out. And like you said, is that I've kind of been given that timeline of 2018, 19, 2020, kind of after I get through my Saturn return, which I think happens for me in December 19. Of this year. Yeah. So, yeah, it's fascinating, and like many people are like starting to really wake up.
No, they are. That's part of the shift, is this massive awakening and this wanting to be a part of this. And the fact that you've been able to take it to the 12th level is amazing. They're very proud of you, by the way. They know you've sacrificed a lot to get there. And just remember, as you start putting it out there, don't be surprised if more doors open into that. And they also want me to share with you that as you're exploring the healing modalities, as you look and see how different healers work, God, if you get I'm supposed to be up there in Canada for the Caribou thing. And if you can do that as well, I could show you something that would totally blow your mind.
Okay.
But you need to start looking at what frequency these healers are working at. Does that make sense?
It does, because I've learned how to like loop all of the healing frequencies, all of the healing tones, all of the healing vibrations. Yeah. And now I bought a set of drums, and I just got some brand new cymbals. I don't even know how to pronounce the name of them, but they're expensive. But a cymbal is the only thing that I can actually, if I hit them right, I can actually prove my 60 tones exactly what they are.
Have you ever? I'm sorry. Have you ever used the? I'm sorry, Susan. Have you ever used the Tibetan bowls?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used the bowls, and I use a Rife machine. Like I have an actual machine that was made by Rife, and then the next guy that he worked with, and it was something that I found one day on eBay. It was for sale for I think 6 days, 23 hours, and not very many minutes when I saw it up there, and I went, I can't believe that, and I just clicked buy it now. I was always taught that there's never a price you can put on a spiritual item that you need. Like, if you need it, it doesn't matter what it costs. The universe will always provide what you need.
Yeah.
You know, like, for what you, and this Rife
if you're on the right path.
Yeah, and see, this Rife machine, what I can do is kind of become one with it, and then I can feel my 0 vibration, and then I can run 1, and then the cycle of 2 and 3. The other thing you can do in your dream time, because I see the magic is when the dreamer and the dream become one and the same.
Yep.
So
that's
what
when you
kind
find
of
the balance
happens?
between the worlds.
Yeah, and see, what I'm able to do is I'm able to take the energy in from the machine and then feel it and then loop it with the machine, and then I'm able to loop it up to a line of guides who all loop it up, 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 and then it all comes back exactly the same way. And then that's how I can kind of feel different frequencies, because there's certain frequencies that will do certain things for people. Like if people have parasites, there's one that will eradicate parasites. You know, if people are sick and not feeling well, there's nothing better than taking a cat and putting it on your chest.
Exactly.
Because a cat's purr is high.
Yep.
Interesting.
And everything has, and missing vibrations, you can calibrate them sometimes by using a pendulum, where you go, am I missing any vibrations between 0 and 100? And the pendulum says no. And then am I missing any between 100 and 200? And it says yes. Are the ones I'm missing less than 150? And the pendulum says no. Then you say, are they between 160 and 170, 170 and 180? And then you can narrow it down really fast. And people need to learn, because in pendulums and dowsing and everything like that, that's how we found water in the old days.
Yep.
You know, we went out to the field with dowsing rods and we went for a walk around, and it didn't take them very long before they found an aquifer that they could drill into that was only maybe 12 or 13 feet under the ground.
We still find water that way.
A lot of these, and a lot of these well drilling companies, they come to the same piece of property and they say, geez, I wonder if we can get him for 300 feet or 200 feet or 150 feet at, you know, so many hundreds of dollars per foot. So there's a lot of different things, like over the years. Like I watch too some of the millennials, and they'll watch somebody's video, and then you'll hear them parroting that person's video, but they don't even have an understanding of what that person like lived through. Like it takes literally, you know, not just one lifetime to learn everything. It takes many, many lifetimes, and then there's many levels at different lifetimes.
Susan?
And
Susan?
Yep.
I have a couple of callers behind you, but I have your number, and I'm going to drag you kicking and screaming one day and actually have you on.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, because you're a night owl anyway, and it's one of those ways of getting this out and getting maybe getting it out there to, you know, we do have people listening from all over the world, so you might find somebody through us. Who knows?
Okay, and I might be interested in doing a radio show with you too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm going to give you a shout.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Have a great night. Thank you, Skeeter, and I'll send you some good energy your way.
Well, thank you, Han.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. That was very interesting. Yep. I've got a full...
Oh, definitely. You look me up and hit me up at bluemoonweaver@gmail.com, because I'd really like to work with you more on that.
Okay, perfect. Have a great night. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Thank you, Susan. You. Who's at our 402 number?
Hi, James. It's Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
How are you?
Good.
How you doing?
I am well.
Good. Hi, Skeeter.
Hi.
I'm glad. Hi.
How are you doing?
What? Oh, good. Good. I mean, I just was hoping that you could pick up anything that you can with me, my guides, whatever your little heart tells you.
Actually, give me just a second. James, can you make some quick talk real quick, please?
I can do some quick talk. Did you know that some parts of a pine tree are edible? No, actually, if you guys remember to tune in, S4 with Eric Cooper is coming on Spreaker at midnight. And if you don't live in the West Coast, well, gosh darn it, midnight is only 28 minutes away. So S4 on Spreaker. And tune in to hear what Eric and the boys are talking about this evening. Sometimes it's hard to find on Spreaker by just searching S4. Well, just search Eric Cooper, and it'll bring it up relatively quick. Again, that's Eric Cooper every Sunday night at midnight. S4, and those are the boys from Forest Moon Paranormal out of Washington State, and they talk about some of the coolest subjects. So, again, that's right after us on Spreaker here, S4 with Eric Cooper and the guys from Forest Moon Paranormal. And I'm saying all this while Skeeter's tuning in. I don't have any really cool music to play, but whatever. Okay, you're back.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm getting, and I'm not quite sure how to say it politely.
Okay.
But it's... We want to connect with you. We want to work with you. But until you're ready to actually be more than just told what you want to be told, they're not 100% sure they're ready to share with you.
Okay. Who's they?
These are
spirit guides, or
they're your spirit guides. They're people who have come from the other realm trying to get a hold of you, trying to guide you, trying to give you information to help you get back on track. They do try to come through other modalities, and they're saying it's very hard to communicate.
Yeah. Yeah, I can believe that.
Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, because I with everything that's been happening in my life recently, I've been looking at them going, really, really, really? And they're like, yes, do we have to hit you on the head again? And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I know.
And it's really easy to get caught up in our human
I got it.
place and not want to hear what it is that they want to say, because it contradicts our human condition. It's like I've gone to 4 very good psychic friends, amazing psychics, individuals that I absolutely admire and respect their gifts. And I've been going to each one asking the exact same question without asking it, and I'm getting the exact same answer from each and every single one of them. And for me, I'm asking the how. How do I do this? How do I adjust to this? What am I supposed to do exactly? And that's one of the things you keep asking is, well, this is going on. How do I do this? And one of the things me and you are both guilty about is that we're kind of digging in our heels going, no, I can't do that. But the only way it's going to happen is if we finally go, you know what, F it. I'm just gonna throw my sleeping bag in the back of the car and take the last $20 in my pocket and go.
Yeah.
And
I've thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm actually more like that now than I was probably for sure 2 months ago. But Skeeter, can I ask you, can you pick up anything around my house, spirit-wise?
They're not necessarily in the house. They try to stay out of the house because inside the house there's a lot of chaotic human energy. If there's anything in the house, it's normally something that's not used to the area, and it's coming in going, what is this? And then it's like, oh, and it quickly leaves. It's like,
That's funny. Yeah.
It doesn't want anything to do with it.
Actually, that's one of the reasons that I left. And like they'd come in and screw everything up, and I just left it that way because I thought, I'm not going to keep cleaning this house for them, to mess it up again. But that was before. I felt something in here, and I wondered if it was familial or not. And I guess the only other thing that I really wanted to know is my Native American Cherokee heritage. I'd really like to know more about my grandmother.
She'd like to reach out to you, but she needs you to come to a place of peace where she can actually talk to you without you being so easily wound up. She knows that our conversation, this is what she's saying. She's saying, I know our conversations would bring you peace because it would give you something to hold on to as far as roots. And you're hoping that you're going to find out more about the healing and the struggle but she says that history leaves a scar. And attached to the scar than you are the history. Does that make sense?
A little bit, yeah. It's kind of like what you were talking about last night. If it's passed down, almost genetically, it's going on inside of you, even though you're not aware of it.
Yeah.
Like I have a draw towards the Trail of Tears. And I guess I'm really wondering, did I have a family member in that?
Yeah, you did.
Because I'm empathic, so, I feel stuff anyway, and learning boundaries is my
That's a hard one
chore.
For you. That's the reason why they try to keep so much from you, is because empathically, if we come to an area, because humans are humans, and I'm always I'm going to try to pick a really polite word, fascinated by when I go into a location and I feel people going, oh, I'm so drawn here. I can feel the emotion. I must have been here in a past life. I must have done this in a past life. Not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think that.
And some people go, oh,
I feel the pain.
Yeah, what you're feeling is the emotion of the place. But not everybody gets that.
And it's so hard that I have to turn away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot.
And for you, the Trail of Tears isn't exactly... It wasn't a direct thing. It was a secondary thing. It still had an effect on your particular bloodlines, but it wasn't a direct thing. I mean, Trail of Tears affected those individuals directly, but it sent a ripple effect through the other tribes. So that's what you're finding you're tied to.
Mm-hmm. I'm also, I guess it's maybe because I am more relaxed and more, like whatever, I'm doing my best. Whatever happens, happens. My gifts are getting stronger or more frequent, I guess. Let me put it that way. The messages or the pictures are coming in more. And I'm getting validated. So that's the unique thing.
Yeah, and that's important, is the fact that you are slowing down enough to get that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I guess maybe I'll never be ready for it.
It's not that you're never going to be ready for it. It's just taking it one breath, one day at a time.
I guess I don't. Are you picking up anything health-wise with me?
A lot of stuff related to stress. You've really the stress levels have really taken a toll on you. And you really need to slow down and do some self-care and really weed out things that aren't serving you.
Oh. There's not a whole lot in my life as it is, Skeeter.
I know, but this isn't... They're wanting me to let you know that this isn't material things. These are emotional, mental, social things.
Oh, yeah. That's definite. You're right on there.
So when I'm telling you need to get rid of things that are no longer serving you, I'm not talking the toaster.
Right. No, I see what you're saying. I have a lot of healing. It's been surfacing. Things that are still hurting.
Yeah. And you need to...
That's what happens when you calm down and all that stuff starts coming up.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, is when you actually slow down enough to start healing yourself, then all those doors start opening, and it's...
Yeah.
People always, the real simple way is, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off. No, it's like reopening the wound completely.
Exactly. It's more like a gutting, like a fish. Yeah.
Yeah. It's honestly, emotionally, psychologically, even in a weird degree, physically, going through the event and trying to take it in from a different perspective so that you can forgive, including yourself and all those involved in it, and allowing yourself to finally step away from the incident, not in that the incident didn't happen, or was not one that was, but in that
does not feel the
take the lessons from it and how they have made you stronger. Which is a really stronger is kind of an off word to use, but it's the best one I can think of right now.
Right. And one thing though, the last couple of days I've been very lucky, blessed to have validations. I mean, just really blunt validations from my father, and just incredible. It's shocking. I wish I could, hear sentences, but I mean, he's making his presence known. And
that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good thing. It's shocking though when it's so blatant. When you get what you ask for immediately. That's weird.
It is a little weird, but understand that that's them telling you that you're ready to start going through that. and working your way through it.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on it. It's just, I was just wondering, if you saw anything.
They're really hoping that you take the little baby steps that you're being allowed to take, and don't let your anxieties get the best of you as you go through this.
Yeah, there is a lot of anxiety that I have to keep pushing down. Yeah. And that's pretty normal, I think, when everything's up in the air. But I don't want to take up all your time. I know you have another caller. But I appreciate it.
Don't write off your anxiety as something that everybody has, because it's trying to tell you that something's being triggered, and you need to respect that.
You know what I'm finding is that I can, I'm sitting there questioning myself, did that person say that out loud? I mean, how do I know that? How do I know what they were told and what made them mad? It's just really kind of weird.
The goal is not so much as to question it as to understand it.
I guess I don't understand it. Is it just that that walls are coming down and it's just coming in, or
the walls are coming down and you're being allowed to kind of the scenario they're showing me is that you're being allowed to sit in the diner and listen into conversations.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't cause a stir, you'll be allowed to continue doing that. As you kind of start taking in not the why things or how things were said, but actually take in the conversation.
Yeah.
Take in the scene.
Let me give you an example. There was a woman in my church who was always very kind and very supportive, and I kind of felt like she was a friend, and I ran into her a couple of days ago, and the hatred I felt from her was unbelievable. And I couldn't get her to, she almost was looking at me through gritted teeth.
They're saying don't take that onto yourself. That's a very naughty empath behavior, is when you take someone's emotion, especially when you're emotionally vulnerable, and take it upon yourself.
Well, she made a comment out of nowhere that you're not the only one that's had a rough life. It was directed at me.
They're asking me to repeat what I just said.
Okay. You always feel like you've done something wrong and you can't figure out what you've done,
But instead of worrying about the fact that it was directed at you or it made you feel bad, listen to what it said.
Yeah.
Obviously, something's happened that has upset her.
Right.
But instead of reaching out to her and going, are you okay? Do you need something? You automatically made it about you.
No, I did.
No, but the thing is, though, is that because you didn't
answer me.
It's because the energy was off.
Okay. Because I did say that, I said, well, are you okay? What's wrong? I'm so sorry. You've been going through,
But it wasn't. Give me just a moment.
It actually, I hate to say this, but it actually felt like she was very jealous and resentful of me being up at the church.
Did you know, Shar?
And I don't know. Yes, sir.
That it's time to go?
I'm sorry. You have another caller.
Well, no, we've had 20. We had 23 other callers, and
oh my God,
they'll have to
really?
call back. No, I'm lying
great.
to you.
Yeah.
No, I'm lying.
Okay.
So I want to thank you, Skeeter.
Are you lying or not?
I am lying.
Lie.
Shush. Skeeter. we will plug your show maybe some other time, but right now I want to plug Eric Cooper at S4, and they're talking about the gin. And for everyone out there, keep an open mind.
That's it. Let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Dave's not here!
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.